You're listening to the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman, episode 177.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Small and Supercharged podcast. It is a solo with me and we're going to be talking about public speaking. I know, don't you turn off. It's going to be a good one because for so many of us, public speaking it is important to our business, it's important to what we do. And public speaking for you might not be standing in front of a room of 100 people and talking. I also see public speaking nowadays as Instagram videos, Instagram stories, doing videos on social media, doing lives. It's all a kind of form of public speaking. Although if we are with our phone, we're just speaking to our phone, the feelings that you get can be very, very similar to those that you get if you're stood in front of a group of people. It just depends on what you're used to. For some people, speaking in front of a room of people is really easy. It's second nature. It's what they're hardwired to do. But thinking of putting themselves out there in front of thousands of people online feels like an enormous effort, an enormous stress. And I just wanted to share some thoughts on it today, really, because I'm recording this on the Monday, and you'll obviously hear it on the Wednesday, but on the Friday, I am one of the speakers at the Festival of Female Entrepreneurs down in Bristol. So if you're listening to this and thinking, that sounds awesome, it is. And it's a really cool festival that is going to be held, as I said, in Bristol. But they have got virtual tickets and they have got online tickets available. So do ping me a message if you want the link to that, or just type into Google or other search engines, Festival of Female Entrepreneurs, and you will see it. And I'm really, really honoured and thrilled to have been asked to speak at the event. But if I kind of cast my mind back, oh gosh, how many years now? I want to say 6, maybe 5 years. I wouldn't have, my brain, I mean, I could physically drive there, walk on a stage and speak, but I would have felt absolutely sick at the thought of doing it. You know, that kind of proper stomach churning, when you start to feel ill level of sick. It wouldn't have just been, I feel a bit nervous. It would have been properly, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I want to run away and hide. And I wanted to really share how I kind of went from that to being quite excited about going to speak on Friday, why I do apply for talks, why I push myself forward, and why I do enjoy it. Last month, I spoke at Beta International. And thinking about the last 18 months we've been confined to our houses due to flipping COVID, I was really excited to get out there speaking again. Really excited. And it was really cool. It was just such a buzz, such joy. I didn't feel nervous. I felt that excited nervousness, you know? And again, it's just casting my mind back really to think about where I used to be. Now, obviously the tips I'm going to share here, the things that help me, they might not necessarily help you. This is just a very personal account of it. But my kind of hope is that maybe something that I share makes you think she might have a point, or that's an interesting view, or at least to know that if there's something like this that you really want to do, you really do want to apply for a TEDx talk, apply to speak on a stage, get more on Instagram stories, get more on video, that you can absolutely do this. It's very much within all of us, really. It's just a case, for me at least, it was a case of getting over that mental hurdle. If you're listening to today's podcast, I would love you to screenshot and share to stories, and I'd love you to let me know if you're a public speaking fan. Would you like to speak on a big stage? What stops you? I would love to hear, because I think it's really interesting. So let's talk about why. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we putting ourselves in these uncomfortable, stressful positions? And again, I'll just talk to you about why I do it. I do it because I enjoy it. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy sharing knowledge. I enjoy the feedback. I love interactive sessions when people are asking me questions, sharing their views. I genuinely love it. I get the biggest high from it. But for me, it's really it's speaking to those people. It is helping them. It is teaching them new things. It's helping them grow in their businesses, helping them grow in their brands. And the great side benefit is that it helps to promote me as a brand, because when you do public speaking events, you are seen much more as an expert in your field. And of course, when you compound that and you keep doing these, you get seen more and more as this, because you're sharing this knowledge in a way that is, it's good. It's, whatever your time limit is, you're thinking about it, you're sharing a thing. And I think if we look at, particularly at TEDx talks online, if you just go to TED.com, or you can go on YouTube as well, there are loads of TED and TEDx talks, and there are some incredible ones there. Really incredible ones. And you hear of speakers like, I love Gary Vaynerchuk, Brené Brown. When these people speak, you listen. And you know that they know their stuff. You learn something, they impart some knowledge. And it really does cement them as an expert. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm nowhere near any of those at all. But when you do push yourself and when you do start to speak on a public stage, it does cement your authority in your subject. It does cement that you really do know your stuff, and you can get a lot of opportunities from doing this. And I've been very, very lucky. I've got some really lovely opportunities off the back of speaking at events, and it's lovely to see that. So it's not just a case of you pushing yourself for no reason. Genuinely, I do love teaching people. I love it when I'm giving a talk and I can see people like start to take notes, start to nod, start to give me signs that what I'm saying is hitting a nerve with them, is making sense for them. And then I love to see as well afterwards, and this is particularly when it's talks within my niche, when people know me better. I can see that they're starting to apply what we've talked about because I get tagged in things or I get messages, and I absolutely love that. So I love the teaching side of it, but it's also incredibly good for building your brand, for being seen as the expert that you are, for sharing this knowledge. And as I said, public speaking can be speaking to a group of hundreds or thousands of people on a stage. It can be speaking to a smaller group. It can be things like, I'm kind of bundling it all together. I think the real worry comes, or used to come, when it was in front of a group of people, when I couldn't take it again, when it had to be live. But I also think that the more you do it, the less you worry about stuff that goes wrong. And I'll share that as well. So as I said, for me, gosh, I want to say about 6 years ago, because I say this, my children are 6 this week actually, and I know that I did my first TEDx talks when they were very much here and they were small children, like small, probably 2 maybe. I should recheck the dates. Anyway, I had convinced myself very, very positively that I was awful at public speaking, because I'm not really sure why. I had done events before. With my kind of PR hat on, working for brands, I had put on launches, real life in-person launches where I invited the press, and they'd all gone well. They'd all gone fairly well. No, they had gone well, but I found it incredibly nerve-wracking. I think the worry that there were lots of moving parts there. There was a lot to go wrong. And I know we had one event where people were speaking and kind of explaining what was going on. And I explained a bit, and it was incredibly nerve-wracking. I felt so ill before it happened, on the run up to it. I was just so worried about like letting the side down, cocking it up, forgetting what I was talking about, even though I think I had notes. But I just remember that overall feeling of just dread and real, like that nervousness that just makes you feel properly ill, and like not just in your stomach, just everywhere. And I just thought, this is horrific. I don't want to be doing this again. And then I carried on happily for years and years, not ever putting myself forward for any kind of event, really. Then I got asked to go and judge something on a panel. Then I got asked to do some lecturing around that as well. And the lecturing kind of set those things in motion, but it was again slightly different because it was teaching, and I really enjoy teaching, but it didn't feel quite as nerve-wracking as like full-on public speaking, when you're stood up in front of a group of people who it just didn't feel the same. And I really did enjoy it. I do really enjoy lecturing still now. So I really enjoyed that. So that kind of went into my memory of, maybe I'm not awful at this, but still it was a real thing. It was a real thing. There were lots of really cool opportunities I saw kind of wafting around the internet. And I would think, oh, it'd be so cool to be able to do that. But that was quickly countered with, yeah, but I can't because I'm rubbish at this. And this went on for years. Talk about negative self-talk, right? So I did what I don't think is a normal thing. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend you do this. There are loads of other ways that you can get to the same outcome. But I just got a bit fed up with my own rubbish on this. And I thought, right, what's the best thing to do for me? Again, this might not work for you. And I applied to give a TEDx talk, which is admittedly quite a big step and not a normal one. And I applied to give a TEDx talk, and much to my amazement, I got the TEDx talk and I was invited to go and give this TEDx talk. Now, TED and TEDx is a really, really cool organisation that provide talks. TEDx ones are kind of smaller, locally arranged ones, and the TED Talks are the bigger ones. They're really very impressive. Now, there are lots of different things with a TED Talk or a TEDx talk. Let's go TEDx because they're the ones I know more about. And one was that you had to speak for a maximum of, I want to say 18 minutes about your subject. And all TEDx talks, again, if you go into TED.com, you can find these TEDx talks. They all have a theme. They all have this kind of overarching theme. And your talk, when you pitch your talk, it needs to fit the theme. So I'd pitched one about how technology connects rural communities. And the talk, actually, I was really proud of the talk. It involved basically how I'm sort of sat in rural Worcestershire. And I have an amazing client, Jane Pike, you may know her, who is Confident Rider, who lives all the way over in New Zealand. I can't pronounce the place where she lives, but I did do that on the stage. And how she has got a client miles and miles away, right up at the top of the world. Now, without technology, we would not have found each other. I've never been to New Zealand. And if I had, what were the chances of me literally crashing into Jane on the street and starting up a conversation? Very, very slim. And yet, social media particularly allowed us to connect. And that was my first TEDx talk. And I was nervous. I was nervous about it because you would be nervous to give a TEDx talk. And I practiced and I had notes and I had slides. And I read a really good book here, which I've got on my desk, which is called TED Talks. It's the official TED Guide to Public Speaking by Chris Anderson, who I'm not sure if he is still the head of TED. That sounds really cool, it rhymes. But when he wrote this book, he definitely was, because that's what it says. I got it on Amazon. It was not much money. It is awesome. If you are thinking about doing more public speaking, do look into that book. And there are lots of public speaking books, but I bought that one and I really liked it. So I trundled along and I was really nervous, because you are. I'd done my hair and I got out the car and it rained. And if you know anything about my hair, it doesn't like rain. So it bushed right up. It looked awful. But it is what it is. And I was quite nervous. There were 3 of us speaking at it was an evening event, and there were 3 of us speaking, and I was kind of stood there thinking about it before anyone came in. And I just thought, oh, this is awful. This is a really big mistake. I've really, really overestimated my skills here. And then I just thought, what if it all goes horribly wrong? What if I get up on stage? What if I don't even get up on stage? What if I trip up the steps and land on the stage? What if I stand on the red spot where you stand to do your talk and I can't string a sentence together? What happens then? What happens if I say the completely wrong word? What happens if the slides fail? And I went through a lot of worst case scenarios in my head, and I realised in the nicest possible way, it didn't actually matter. By which I mean, if I did all those things, let's go big, let's do all of those things, would it mean that I would lose my job? No. Would it mean that my house wouldn't be there when I got back to it? No. Would it mean that my family would be in any kind of worry, peril, whatever? No. Okay, so when you think about all the things that really matter in your life, and I do think after the last 18 months, they've been brought into sharper focus, haven't they? Like family, friends, horses, animals, were, the things that matter to us have been brought into really sharp focus. So any of these really important things, would it matter if I absolutely messed it up? And I realised that it wouldn't. And all of a sudden, I kind of didn't care. I wanted to give the most amazing talk that I was capable of giving. I wanted everyone to learn something in there. I wanted to make people laugh. But I kind of just took that pressure off myself. I think in my head, I had built it up for if I wasn't perfect, and we all know that perfection is just ridiculous. If I wasn't perfect, then bad things would happen. But when I thought about it, anything that was really bad wasn't gonna happen. I would make a fool of myself. I think when you've worked with horses, you just accept that is part of the course. My ego would take a battering. Again, refer to the horse point, or even like dealing with small children. That happens anyway. So anything that was likely to happen wasn't really important. It wasn't something that was out of the ordinary. And it just felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And I trundled out and gave a talk, and people liked it, and people were very nice about it. And I thought, God, that was good. That was good. I felt really, really buzzed up, really pleased about it. And then I thought, that was a fluke. That was definitely a fluke, because that went quite well. That was a fluke. So I applied for another one. Again, not a normal reaction for a normal human. And I applied for another one, and I got another one, and I went and gave another talk. It was better than the last one. It was a whole day event. And to give you an example of messing things up, it was another TEDx talk, and I got microphoned up because they filmed them. And I was about to walk up onto the steps, and I think I scratched my ear because I had the microphone in my ear, and completely disconnected the entire thing. And just stood there with all these bits of cable in my hands, looking at the man who came over and fixed it. Again, I just thought, what's the worst that's going to happen? What is the worst that's going to happen? If I just stood there and didn't say anything for 18 minutes, it's not life or death, is it? No one's going to die because I can't string a sentence together. And it was really empowering, I guess, just to think of it like that. And I do apply this now with any talk I give, any webinar, any seminar, anything. Like, I know that I can deliver. I never pitch to talk about things I don't know inside and out, because that would be ridiculous. Why would you want to hear from me about something I didn't know inside and out? The whole point is, if you want to cement yourself as an expert through public speaking and inspire and educate people, you need to know the subject. So that would be a complete waste of everyone's time. But I have a bit of fun with it now. I do my prep. I'm just finishing the slides for the Festival of Female Entrepreneurs. I'm going to do the prep. I'm going to practice it. I'm going to think about what I want to talk about. And then I'm just going to go and enjoy it. And just know that if it goes wrong, it doesn't really matter. And in some bizarre way, by knowing that, it won't go wrong. And also knowing that if something does go wrong, if there is a tech failure, if my slides don't work, that would be slightly vexing, but not a big problem. If the microphone stops working, if I trip over, could happen. It's going to be fine. I'll style it out. I think, again, over the last 18 months, the amount of webinars and online trainings that I've given, and so many of us have been part of, there's usually a tech glitch. There's usually a moment where the line goes weird, or it says you're unstable. It's such a judgy platform. And you just roll with it. You just crack on and push on. And I think that has given me more confidence around adjusting and recalibrating if something doesn't go the way I expect it to. And I just think that's kind of it, really. We now as well, I think we as the public, if we're watching a talk and there's a tech issue, we just kind of think, oh yeah, is what it is, because we've all been subjected to so many tech issues. I mean, gosh, if you watch the Prime Minister's briefings, the amount of people that didn't unmute the microphone, or the amount of tech issues that we saw there from people pretty high up that shouldn't be, if there's anyone that shouldn't be having an issue, you'd think it was them, is awesome. I mean, next slide, please. And having that all go wonky. again, I gave a webinar a few months ago, and I was having an absolute nightmare sharing my screen. Decided that I wasn't going to share my screen, and that I was actually going to share my desktop instead, which is just absolute carnage and needs sorting out. And I tried 2 or 3 times and it wouldn't do it. And I was getting really quite stressed. And the girl who was leading the session, this was actually for Enterprise Nation as well, said, can you send me the slides? I was like, yeah, of course I can do that now. So I whizzed the slides over, and I just, channeled my inner Chris Whitty and just kept saying, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Went really well. Was it ideal? No. But do you adapt? Yes. And it's quite a cool, fun exercise. If you kind of spin it round, not thinking about, how will I cope if it goes wrong? Think, how am I going to fix the situation? How am I going to think on my feet? That makes it quite exciting when something goes wrong, because you kind of see it as a challenge rather than as a failing. We can't control tech. We know this. So if it goes a bit wonky, find a way. Think around the issue. So my tips for this is that if you want to do more public speaking, look into opportunities. There are also groups that can help with confidence connected to public speaking. I would absolutely recommend getting this book. It's called TED Talks. I would have a look at some TEDx talks and some TED Talks, looking at the TED.com website. I would look at how other people do their talks, go to YouTube, look at kind of absolute masters. Look at how Gary Vee does a talk, or Brené Brown, or Rachel Hollis. Look at how these people speak, because they're very, very good. And you're not necessarily going to want to adopt their methods. And I know one of the people I mentioned then, Rachel Hollis, her conferences are absolutely incredible to watch, but she's very, very high energy. She'll dance around the place. I'm not going to do that because I would absolutely trip over my own feet there. But it's great to see the kind of diversity across what people do for a talk. Some people will stand still, some people move around. When you give a TEDx talk, you have to stand on this spot for the filming. But when I'm when I lecture, I tend to pace a bit. I need to kind of work on that to slow the pacing down a bit. I like to move around. I hate standing still because I don't quite know what to do with my arms and my legs. But at least if I'm moving, that helps. But look at people who are true masters in their craft. How are they doing it? Read up and then apply. It might be that you apply to speak in front of 5 people, that maybe there's a business event going on and you ask if they need a guest speaker. Just have a go. And if you can use these skills to help you with your Instagram, with your lives, with your Instagram stories, with your Instagram lives, with your Facebook lives, with other live broadcasts, with video, then do it. The same stuff applies. And the great thing is if you're doing a story, if it's rubbish, you can just delete it. And with a live, again, it's not, if the tech fails. Everyone's used to it. If you've done all you can, you can't do any more, but you can't let this stop you. So that is my take on public speaking and why it is important, and how I kind of overcame that really not wanting to do it, really digging my heels in and not wanting to do it at all, to actually really looking forward to these opportunities. And that kind of breeds more opportunities anyway. You'll have to do them for free to start with. I now get paid to speak at some events. So again, it just leads to more opportunities. So embrace that. It is exciting. It does get the old adrenaline going. I'm really looking forward to Friday, and I can't wait to see. Well, we'll see what I do. It's all going to be a mystery for everyone, and I can't wait to hopefully help people change their businesses for the better, improve their brands. It's all about how to show up authentically. Spoiler alert. This is something that is really important to me. Something that I teach on a lot. Something that I'm incredibly passionate about, and I'm really excited to share that. If you would, as I said, if you fancy screenshotting this and sharing it to stories, or send me a DM about your own public speaking experiences, I would love to hear it. If you want more support with things like lives, your social media, marketing, PR, brand building, then do check out the Small and Supercharged Mastermind group. This is my membership group. You can find it at riafreemanpr.co.uk, and Small and Supercharged Mastermind is right across the top. Or send me a DM. Ask me any questions you have. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that was useful. I hope it's helped. It's a funny subject But it is one that if you can grasp it, if you can master it, not let it master you, it can be a real game changer. Take care, and we will speak next week. Bye.